Today's guest is someone I'm proud to call a former teammate from the University of Oklahoma, Joseph Hughes. After a playing career that included time with the Kansas City Royals, Joe moved into coaching and operations at Texas Tech University, leading them to 4 College World Series appearances. Now, through Hughes Baseball Consulting, he guides young athletes and their families through the recruiting process, bringing a full understanding of not just the game itself, but the mental challenges that often get overlooked when choosing the right college fit. Today, we share our own recruiting experiences, reflect on how the landscape has changed, and break down what it truly takes to succeed at the next level. Let's get into it. Welcome to episode 5 of the Healthy Mental Pod.
I'm excited for what you're doing on this. This is cool.
Yeah, man.
Concept of it, and you can hit it from so many aspects, like so many different angles, and help so many people with it. You know what I mean?
Definitely. Yeah. Trying, man. We'll see. A lot of people don't like to talk about the mental health side of things. It's not necessarily the mental health side of stuff, man. It's everything can be a battle, man. When you get stressed out, when you get in an argument with your wife, man, I mean, those are all stressful situations, so.
It's a real thing, though, man. It's a real thing and you're right. People don't like talking about it, but they're more apt to talk about it now. And it's good. The things like I've gone through in my life, I was like, man, I wish because I was always one just to bottle it up and move on, right? Like you never and it's just like I've learned over time, like, no, like you gotta talk, man. Like you gotta share. And and that's what's been good with my wife. She's like the one that's made me realize that. I'm like, man, this helps. Like this is cool. Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely, dude. Sharing, and it's finding that one person that you want to share with, Jojo. I've gone to so many different therapists and stuff.
Yeah.
And my takeaway from that, it's like, I'm paying somebody to listen. So at the end of the day, I'm wondering, like, I started going to therapists and said, what tools and techniques can you give me to help me better myself is what I would start saying from the jump. And then if they didn't have any tools or techniques, I'm like, then what am I coming here for? I don't need to just get,
let me figure something else out for sure.
100%, man. I can't tell you, man. I've been engaged 3 times, married, divorced once, and second marriage. And man, I've definitely gone through the therapy route trying to save those relationships. So tough, man. So tough.
Yeah.
But let's get into it, bro.
Do it, yeah.
Joe, I'm really glad that you could be here with us on this episode of the Healthy Mental Pod. This is a really cool episode. I kind of reached out to you maybe about a month or so ago or a few weeks ago, and I saw that you had started Hughes Baseball Consulting, and I thought it would be a really cool thing to talk about the recruiting process. A lot of people, a lot of parents aren't prepared for that recruiting process. And I know for a fact that I wasn't prepared for what came along with it. And I had a single mother, and she definitely wasn't prepared. We didn't have a male figure in the house to kind of guide us and stuff like that. My mom was working multiple jobs, so she didn't have time to do the research herself. So it's just one of those things, and it can become very, very stressful. And if you're not careful, it can actually lead to making poor decisions in the recruiting process. So yeah, I kind of wanted to touch on that, but I also wanted to go back. Joseph and I played my freshman year. Was it your senior year?
My senior year, yeah.
Yeah, we played together at Oklahoma. I believe I met Joe on my recruiting trip earlier that year, or the year prior. At the football game and stuff like that. And I had a great experience, at Oklahoma. There were some ups and downs for me, some growing pains and things like that. And JoJo was actually there for a lot of those. He witnessed them firsthand, and I thought it would be cool to do a full circle and stuff like that, and talk about your recruiting process leading up to going to Oklahoma, and then what you were doing after with Tech, and following Tim Tadlock down there, and being a part of the coaching staff and part of the staff down there. So like when you first started, JoJo, playing baseball, was going to a major university, a major D1, a dream of yours, or was it just you love playing, and where did that love come from and things like that?
Yeah, no, I think looking back, I always had a love just for sports, and baseball for some reason just captured me. and I wasn't necessarily the most skilled at it. It was one of those things. It's such a hard game. And I think this is what's so cool about doing this tonight, or the podcast, is that I can look back and it's like life experiences with it, right? Because I think baseball and athletics in general just correlate to life so much. Um, but looking back at it, man, like um, I wanted to play college baseball, but I didn't know that I could play college baseball. And I didn't know that I had it in me to play college baseball. I knew I was a good athlete, good baseball player in high school, but I didn't know what that meant. And so moving forward from like high school, I was like, how do I do this? What do I do? And I was like, it's the whole old saying, if I'm good enough, they'll find me. And times have changed drastically.
Absolutely. You went to Grayson Community College, right?
Yeah, I did. My freshman, sophomore, so fall of 2004. I went to Grayson County College. I went there as a preferred walk on. Literally, I didn't know where I was going to college out of high school until the summer after my senior year of high school. And so going back to high school, like I look at it and I wasn't mentally strong enough. I wasn't physically strong enough. I wasn't ready to make that next leap to Division 1 just yet, right? And so thank thank the Lord, like I had my summer travel ball coach, the summer after my senior year of high school, called Tim Tadlock, our former coach, and said, hey, he needs to come play for you. And so I walked on. I went up there without knowing where I was going, who Grayson County was, who Tim Tadlock was. But it's just really cool how things work out.
For sure. How far away is Grayson from where you grew up, where your mom and dad were at the time?
It's about an hour north. So I grew up I went to Plano East Senior High. Grayson County College is in Sherman, Denison, if you're not familiar with that, right on the border of Texas and Oklahoma, just straight north of Dallas.
Right. I know where the Denison area is for some reason. I don't know why, but yeah, I know where I know where the Denison area is. That's awesome, man. So did you have to, obviously you didn't commute there every day. You stayed out there. Did you live out there while you're out there? So was that the first time you were away from home?
First time I was away from home, which for
Okay.
me, honestly, was probably the best thing. A little bit different than you. I mean, I could get home in an hour. I could go eat a home cooked meal in an hour.
Right, right.
I could go see my family. So for me, it was honestly the perfect thing for me at that
Absolutely.
time, right?
Right. When guys are going through the recruiting process, is that something that, depending on what type of athlete they are, or where their ranking is, or where they can go to school and things like that, is that something that somebody should take into account when they're looking at schools? It's like, the comfortability. Should I be far from home? Should I be close? Am I mature enough for that? And then also the community college route versus the D1 route. I mean, that's the route that you took. You explained why. Is that a viable option nowadays for people that aren't sure, with the portal and with this NIL stuff? It seems almost more lucrative for someone to want to actually get to D1 ball now versus going the community college route. What's your take and feeling on that?
So what I preach, and I'm a big believer in this, is you need to find your best fit. So when I say best fit, it means look, research everything you need that you value, right? Like if you want to be close to home, there's nothing wrong with that. That's what you value, right? If you're wanting to go further away, if you're wanting to play at a different level, whatever that is, find what your best fit is. As far as Division 1 being a little bit more lucrative, yes, it is, because you've got the NIL era. It's way different from when we played. I mean, it's
Right,
it's crazy.
right.
But to me, junior college is such a good route because it's a chance for you to go develop.
Hmm.
Most kids coming out of high school, they're not ready for the college game yet. Um, and so that's where junior college comes in. And then there's some one-offs where kids are ready and they're ready to go play big time college baseball. But I'm a big believer that you need to go where you have an opportunity to play, right
Absolutely.
out the shoot, because otherwise you're going to get lost in the process. It's if you're not playing, you're not developing. And yes, like there's some that can go to a place and sit a year, wait their turn. But again, man, it's hard to get better if you're not playing every day.
Absolutely. That's a huge thing. And I went to the high school that I went to previously. I went to two high schools, and I transferred from a private high school, which I was at originally, to a public high school my last year because we had a coaching change, and I wasn't going to play for this other coach that they were bringing in. Wasn't a good fit, right? And right, yeah. And so I remember being at this private high school, and there was a lot of there was a lot of status there, and I only went there because I got a baseball scholarship to go there, but there was a lot of status, there was a lot of pride, you know what I mean?
Sure.
A lot of parents that had graduated from college, living vicariously through their kids sometimes.
A lot of the time.
But yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
But I remember there was kids there that didn't care if they necessarily played back in the day. It was more so they wanted to get to that D1 to impress mom and dad, impress their friends, and they kind of overlooked some of those things that you were just talking about. I remember being at Oklahoma that freshman year with you, and I got really homesick, man. I got tremendously homesick, to the point where I think a lot of things that you saw were like kind of self-sabotage or withdrawals, from just not being at home, hadn't been away like that long. And that took a toll on me. And I remember when I left OU that freshman year, my goal was, I looked at a junior college in Florida, and I remember going out there, and when we flew, I had to fly into Atlanta and then drive like an hour and a half down to somewhere in the Panhandle.
Sure.
And we were in the sticks, and I was just like swamps and everything. And I knew right away, I said, this isn't going to work, man. How am I going to see my mom? I was a mama's boy. So how am I going to see my mom? How am I going to this isn't going to work. It's even further away than I was at Oklahoma. Come home, I check out a school in Vegas. I said, this is cool. My mom was able to fly in and out every weekend for our games and stuff like that. We only played on the weekends. So that was a big factor. I know I was a lot happier just on the home front right there. That brought a lot of comfort for me. And it was just it's interesting, it's an interesting take on things. But back to you, Jojo, when you left Grayson, how did that work? Did you have multiple offers?
Yeah.
And being closer to your parents and stuff like that with big decisions, did you run any of these things by your parents? How intricate did they play in that role of you going to Oklahoma and everything?
Yeah, it's actually kind of a wild story. So I've had recruiting stories from kind of both, the opposite ends of the spectrum. So out of high school, man, I was not recruited at all, right? Like I had a couple smaller offers, or opportunities, I should say, and ended up going to Grayson. And so I went there, and it was the best thing for me. I played as a two-way guy there. Um, and then I ended up going like after my sophomore year at Grayson. I wasn't, I had a couple smaller offers. And when I say smaller, mid-major Division I offers, but for me, I was like, man, I wanted to go somewhere bigger, right? This is why I went junior college. My ultimate goal was to do something bigger, right? And so I ended up going up to, out of all places, Northern Virginia, next to Washington, D.C.
Wow.
Played
Yeah.
summer collegiate league there, and I just pitched there, and I wanted to play outfield. I knew that, uh, but I just went. I just pitched. That's what they wanted me to do. Um, and so I played there and had a really good summer. And so next thing I knew, man, I think I had an offer from everybody in the region of, my hometown, and then some. So it was kind of crazy going from unrecruited in high school to lightly recruited out of junior college to all of a sudden it's like, hey, I got to make a decision. I'm going to school in 1 month, and I've got all these offers in front of me, right?
Right, right,
And
right.
so what's even crazier is I flew down to University of Arkansas. Loved it, loved what I saw, but I was just going to pitch there, right?
Mm,
And so when I actually ended up committing there, but,
okay.
but here's what gets even crazier.
Yeah, yeah.
So I go back up to DC area, and I'm waiting for my scholarship papers in the mail, and I call Arkansas. They're like, "Hey, you hadn't got them?" I was like, "No, I hadn't got them." It was about a week later. They're like, hold on, let me check. Well, the secretary was out, and so they're sitting on her desk, or so they told me at least, right?
Right,
And
right,
they're like,
right.
hey, we're going to overnight them. I said, great, that's cool. And so, I mean, God's timing, whatever you want to call it, like that's what I believe, right? So, um, that night, Tadlock, he calls me and he goes, hey, I'm just checking in, right? I'm like, hey, everything's good. He's like, hey, how's you excited to go to Arkansas? I was like, yeah, funny story. Papers got delayed. I hadn't signed yet. And he goes, well, funny story. I got the job at University of Oklahoma as assistant coach. And I go, hey man, I'm coming.
Yeah.
No. Like, I'm not calling to recruit you. I was just telling you, like, I'm going. He goes, I don't even know if we have roster or a scholarship available. I don't know if we have a roster spot. I said, Tad, dude, like, I know you're going to fight for me. I've played for you for 2 years. Like, I want to play as an outfielder still. I want to play. I want to pitch. I'm coming. Well, hold on. Let me see. And so next thing I know, I reroute. I'm going to University of Oklahoma.
That's awesome, man. It would be like Tadlock to call you and let you know that he's going up. I'm just letting you. I'm going up, buddy.
By the way, yeah, right.
Yeah, that's awesome. I think that's an awesome thing that Tadlock was able to bring somebody that he knows, somebody he helped develop, somebody he knew your heart. Because I'm going to tell you something. Watching you play center field was like watching Andrew Jones back in the day with the Braves play center field, man. You would dive everywhere. And I was just like, how did he get to that ball? You had like this hit, like this speed that it would just kind of like you would glide but you had such great routes that you could beat a lot of balls that were probably gappers. And I wasn't the greatest right fielder, and I was definitely lazy back then. So I wasn't hauling ass to those corners or to the gaps with you. And I'd be like, I'm jogging out there. Okay, this is a double. And then all of a sudden you just come up with the ball. I'm just like, you know what I mean? I couldn't believe that. So you were a phenomenal center fielder, man. I can't say that enough, man. Your defense was impeccable.
I appreciate that. And the fact that you just compared me to Andrew Jones just made my year. I mean, one of the best center fielders ever, right?
I mean, yeah, seriously, I don't know how many gold gloves he won in a row, but yeah, no, you were definitely in my eyes, man. I mean, as a 18, 19-year-old, man, that's my comparison right there, brother. So
appreciate that.
Funny, we'll get back to a little bit more OU stuff before we hit some more recruiting stuff. But I had a funny story with Tadlock just because of how funny that was to me a little bit, how he called you and just kind of, kudos to him. But when he was doing, when I'd already committed to OU, he called me one night, and you remember coaches could only get one call, I think, a week or something.
The rule, yeah, limited.
Yeah. And Tadlock calls. He would call like clockwork, and he'd be on a recruiting or on a trip to see a kid somewhere, and he'd randomly call me, and we'd have these like funny conversations. Now, granted, I'm from the West Coast. I've never met a Tim Tadlock before. Back then, he was just, go ahead, yeah.
Could you understand him? Could you understand him?
Yeah, I could understand him, but I was just kind of like, sometimes I didn't know where he was coming from, right?
Yeah.
But he would always come full circle. It makes sense. But he calls me one night, and I remember I'm standing in my bathroom. It's my senior year of high school, and he's like, "How you doing?" I said, "I'm good, Tim. How you doing, man?" Well, I'm down on a recruiting trip somewhere. I don't know where I'm at. I said, "Okay, all right, Tim." And then he goes, I'm at a place called, have you ever eaten at a place called Wendy's, Devin? I was like, yeah, I've eaten at a Wendy's, Tim. And and he goes, well, I'm having this thing called a Frosty. You ever had one of those? I was like, yeah, Tim, I know what a Frosty is, man. Mm-hmm. I was starting to wonder, I'm like, where is this guy from, bro? Like, you know what I mean? I was just kind of like, what's going on? Yeah. When you got to OU and everything like that, something that I think this happened while you were there. And it kind of goes to when, some people are going to experience it, especially with the portal and all this other stuff, being able to leave schools when things don't work out or you're just not getting playing time or whatever the deal is. You had I believe you had a head coaching change during your time there. Is that right? Or was that before?
So the whole reason Tadlock got the job was it was the year before. And so that's
okay.
Came because Sonny Galloway got the job, hired Tadlock. And that's how all that stemmed. So it was right before me. Yeah, the year before me.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
Gotcha. Now we can touch on that. So there was a coaching change. I believe Joe Dunnigan went through it then, right? I think he felt that. Yeah, that's right. Because you were there. You went there your junior, senior year. what do you say to like some kids when there's a portal option, in your consulting and everything like that? Do you guys ever talk about that? Hey, if it doesn't work out, I think you should go here. I think this would be a good fit for you. But if it doesn't work out, we always have options. Are those options on the table? Because a lot of things sometimes just don't go to plan like we want them to.
Sure. Yeah. And so I always tell kids whenever we're talking about the recruiting process and they're trying to, they're either in the heart of the decision or I'm just trying to educate them about it. When I get to the transfer portal, I always tell them, I said, look, like never go to a school with the intentions of getting in the transfer portal. You want to go with the right intentions. You want to go there because that's where you want to be, right? You want to feel like it's home. Because there are a few reasons on that. If you're going thinking, hey, I'm going to go to this 4 year school, um, and I want to transfer out, well, guess what? Just like you said, things may not work out. You may not play and you might be stuck there. Or, it's the old saying of like, if your mind is somewhere else or thinking about you want to be somewhere else, you're missing out what's right in front of you on college experiences, life experiences, baseball experiences, your teammates, everything, right? Um, so the transfer portal is a tricky thing because there's some good that comes out of it too, right? So backing up, I always tell them, hey, that's why junior college is a good option because that's what it's created for. You go there 2 years, you can transfer to Division One or a 4 year, right? But to the transfer portal was created with the intentions of helping kids, whether it is a coaching change, whether it is, hey, they go there and, they just don't have the opportunity to play, or they had their experience wasn't great. Or in this today's age, like if they want to go get more NIL money, like it's reality, right? And so that's why I tell kids, hey, when you're choosing a school, go for all the right reasons that you want to be at that school. And hey, guess what? If it's a mid-major or a Division 2, Division 3, and you play good and the opportunity comes from a bigger school, a Power 4 school, yeah, okay, evaluate it then. And that's just life. It's just like, hey, you take a job, if you're sitting there thinking about another job, you're not gonna be great at that job, right? Um, but if you are great at it and somebody else calls you and offers you more money or a better opportunity, that's life. That's how it works. So same thing and so that's my philosophy. That's my thought on the transfer portal.
Absolutely. Now, what about when, and just kind of like a different player here? You've got a player that's you're down in. Are you down in Texas still?
I am. Yeah.
Okay. So you're down in Texas. You're still a hotbed for baseball, hotbed for sports, right? You got a lot of kids down there that are going to get drafted, right, out of high school.
Yeah.
How do you treat that recruiting process when it's like, and coaches are taking a gamble as well. The school's taking a gamble as much as the player is. So how do you, what advice do you give to that player? Again, I'm sure you're still telling him to pick the right school. But if this player and his family have strong intent that they're going to sign, or that they think they're going to sign, but maybe that doesn't happen.
Right.
How do you handle that player?
Yeah. So I think there's different philosophies and everybody's got a personal decision with that. Right. And there's also agents and advisors out there that can help because usually the pro prospects out of high school, they've got that. But my advice to them when I'm talking to them, it's like, look, like weigh all decisions. How much do you value your education? Because it is, if you go Division 1 baseball, um, guess what? It's a 3 year commitment, right? And as opposed to, hey, if you do choose the pro route, well, make sure that you got, schooling paid for. But also understand that you might be out of baseball in 2 years, 3 years, or whatever that is, because baseball doesn't last forever. So I'm a big believer, and obviously I'm a little biased because I coached in college baseball. I'm a big believer that you should go to college baseball because you should play college baseball because it gives you a chance to grow up. It gives you a chance to get an education and possibly a degree. And then obviously you're putting a little risk on that because yeah, you've got to perform, you've got to play good. But then go make your money, the real money. You can make some money in college if you're that good of a player, but you can make the real money whenever you sign out of college, right?
Right. That's the truth. Yeah, you can. I mean, if you are that guy, A lot of things can happen to your body and all sorts of things. But if you are that guy, just go out and have fun and play the game, because that money will be there 2-3 years later. I mean, don't be a fool. Don't if it's good money you get drafted, man, don't be a fool. Wait, see what the statistics of you getting drafted that high again are, and maybe college is always going to be there as well, just maybe not on the collegiate baseball side. So there's a lot of caveats to that. It's weird. Through your college experiences and everything like that, like how has that made you be able to empathize with a lot of these players and what they're going through? I'm sure you come across parents that haven't gone through the experience, and I'm sure you bring them comfort, when you sit there and you talk about everything, knowing that you've gone through this. What's some of the advice as well that you give the players, that are getting prepared for this from a player standpoint?
First thing is, like, parents and players just don't know. I mean, every single kid, like when I go back to my coaching role, when I was at Texas Tech, literally every single kid and every single parent that I ever talked to about the recruiting process or that I recruited, they always had questions. They didn't know what the NCAA rules were. They didn't know what was allowed, what was not. They didn't know how to navigate the whole thing. And so,
real quick, have they changed much from when you played? Or are the rules roughly the same today
rules
for the
have
recruiting?
changed a lot. I mean, just simple things like what you said with phone calls. Like there's a certain age that you can be called now, and then it's unlimited phone calls, right?
Really?
Yeah, during their junior year. It's
Right.
I mean, there's so many rules that have changed, and now it seems like there's a rule for a rule. There's always been a lot of rules, but it's like
Right.
there's a rule for a rule, right? And so that
Right.
to me is like my biggest thing with talking to parents and talking to players. It's like the education piece of understanding what you're getting into. Because it's just like if you're going to take a test and you're not fully prepared to take that test, you don't know what you're getting into, right? And chances are you're not going to be that successful. But if you're fully prepared, you understand the criteria. Guess what? You got a chance to be successful. And then, not to mention, I like from my standpoint, you know, that's how all this stemmed is looking back on my time and looking back at him like, man, I've been in the game for the last 20 years of college athletics, college baseball in particularly, but
That's crazy.
yeah, right.
That's crazy.
Uh,
Right.
but
Yeah.
yeah, so I look back and I'm like, man, I've got all the experience, I've got the knowledge, I've been on the other side of the recruiting phone calls as a coach, and I'm like, I know, like, you guys don't know. And so my experience on that's what I want to bring. There's such a need for the knowledge, and I'm just trying to bridge the gap for the players and the parents.
Absolutely. It's tough. I've talked about it before on another pod. It's tough when you have partial knowledge, and it's just, you're missing pieces. You never feel complete in that. And it's always nice, like when you have somebody like yourself to bridge that gap.
Right.
And that's really beneficial, because it's difficult. I remember during the recruiting process too, I had an advisor, quote unquote, and they give you bad information sometimes. They give you really bad information, at least back then. I don't know how it is now, but I can only speak for my situation. They can definitely guide you down some paths where they may have a tie-in with a coach. Not a good situation for you, but it's a good situation for them. Scratch their back, all this other stuff. So it's always good to have somebody that is kind of removed from that money piece to talk. And when I talk about that money piece, the money that that agent's trying to get off of your bonus and whatnot, it's always great if you can pay for a service or know somebody and do those kinds of things where it's going to help your child to kind of get into a confidence, while going to a university or while choosing that university. I would pay for that service all day long. So it's just, that's something that's a must, I think.
100% right on that, because and that's like talking to parents all the time. They'll literally I'll tell them, look, I don't like, I want to help you, I want to work with you, I want to walk hand in hand with you guys through this process, but if you don't choose me, that's fine. Just understand who you're working with, where they come from, and how they can benefit you, because there's a lot of bad advice out there, man.
A lot of it. Yeah. And yeah, it's always good. It's always good to have that second ear. So yeah, I'm right there with you, brother. Something that I want to tie back, when we were playing, I don't remember. I think Facebook was a thing. I think MySpace was a thing, right? I'm like going through like social media clips. I have an Instagram for the pod and things like that, but I I go through clips and I see these kids that are wearing the little GoPros on their chest while they're playing. They've got like a live feed going. Um, when I first saw that, I was like, you gotta be kidding me. Like this is just not baseball anymore. And then I kind of see professional baseball kind of laxing on the home run trots, the showboating, it's they're kind of laxing on that stuff, and I can see it kind of rubbing off on the kids and things like that. Is that part of the recruiting process now? Are these kids selling themselves? Is that like the recruiting tape? Because these kids have hundreds of thousands of followers too, and some of them aren't bad.
Yeah, 100%. So it's a new day and age. So you're right. Like social media when we were growing up, like wasn't a thing, right? It was just becoming a thing, but you didn't use it for what kids are using it for now. And so, I mean, what I tell kids about social media, look, like it can be an ugly thing. Like you can get lost in it, you can get caught up in it, you can start doing the comparison game of looking what other kids are doing and you're not doing, right? Um, so it's a tool. Like to me, it's like it's a tool that you can use to take advantage and a platform that you can put yourself out there to be seen and be recruited. And man, I'll tell you this, like as a former college coach, as of like last year, uh, I got done last summer is when I stepped away. Every single day, the first thing I'd do waking up, I'd have my coffee and I'd get on Twitter or X now, and that's how I would look at players, right? That's how
It's
I get in.
insane.
And then every night before I went to bed, I'd do the same thing. And so
Wow.
that's the way of the world now. Like for college coaches, it's right at their fingertips. They don't necessarily have to go on the road and beat the bushes to find, the quote unquote diamond in the rough. So that's where I educate kids and parents all the time. It's like, look, well, you have this tool. It's how the world's operating. It's coaches have their phones in their hand 24/7, so use it to your advantage. Uh, and so social media, man, it has changed the game of recruiting, and probably within the last a little over 5 years, I'd say it's become like no, you need to use this to your advantage.
Interesting. How many players do you think you've recruited to Tech off of social media, solely off of social media?
Man,
Actually, being seen. That's where you first saw them, or
yeah.
something.
So identifying, I can't tell you how many. I mean,
Right. Oh my
it's
gosh.
a lot. And so
Wow.
that's how it works, right? So like you identify the player. You either have somebody calling you about a player, kids sending you emails, sending you direct messages. You're seeing video on different recruiting platforms, like Perfect Game, Five Tools, stuff like that, right? And so you get on there and you look at it, and that's where you first identify a kid. And you're like, well, I need to pick up the phone and call my network and see if this kid's, if he can play for us. And then that's how it all starts, man. That's so long gone are the days, and you probably never had to do this because you were like a really good baseball player, high profile recruit out of high school. But long gone are the days of writing letters to college coaches, right? So, like, I remember literally my dad and we barely had a computer, but we're sitting there typing letters, um, and then writing letters too to college coaches that I got no idea if they're even getting them.
Hmm.
And now, so you can see all this, and they'll follow you, all that stuff, right?
I didn't know that was something that you guys like, and I don't mean to say you guys, man.
Yeah,
It's,
yeah.
it's I'd sound ignorant as all else, but no,
Hmm.
I didn't know that was something that players you were reaching out via letter. That's what you were doing.
Yeah,
Wow.
yeah,
See, so I think what is so I remember when I wasn't always like a baseball player that was known. I remember my mom uh almost pulling me out of baseball like in eighth grade or something like that. And I had just made a team that was traveling to Cuba, and it was they were classified and coined as the 14 and under Team USA team. So I went to Havana. I played over there in Cuba for like a week or two. In the President's Cup, we came home, And I was guys on the team, Justin Upton, Chris Tillman, all these different guys that ended up being big leaguers. We were all eighth graders and ninth graders on the same team. And my mom still, when I came home, she was just, baseball's not what you focus on. I need you to get good grades and all this other stuff. And I remember my sophomore year. Sophomore year, I used to model, Joe. I'm just gonna say, I used to model for yeah. I know. I used to model.
Hide it. Yeah.
I used to model in high school for a little bit until it was kind of like taking over my sports and my academics. But so I was able to save a little bit of money, and I didn't have a lot of money to go to these showcases. My mom didn't, at least. And so I remember having a good amount of money saved up from these things. And all I was doing was I was saying, Mom, can I start going to these perfect game showcases? And my mom's like, we don't have money for that. I said, I'll pay for it. I'll get our flights. I'll give you the money for the rental car, and I'll pay for the entry. And so I knew I only had enough money. Yeah, dead, bro, dead. So like, I knew I only had enough money to do that probably once. And I had bought a PlayStation with. I knew exactly what I spent my money on back then. Oh, we fly out, and it was in Arizona, so it wasn't crazy far from California. So we fly out. We're at like in Peoria, Arizona. And I go to this tournament. I don't think I did that well. And then back then it was like a showcase. I don't know how they do them now. It was like you did like a combine kind of thing. And I got really high rating. They asked me to stay for like another game after that and play in like this thing. And then I went home, and that was that. But I had made such a good relationship with the people at Perfect Game from that one thing, because I went there as a sophomore in high school selling myself. I was genuinely selling myself. That's how serious I took it, back in the day. Before this arrogant player came up and what I became, that's all I was doing, was trying to figure out how I could sell myself and promote myself. So that's what I was doing, actually. So I had no clue that, like, I guess in a way that was me doing what you were doing, but in a different fashion. But I didn't know you were writing letters, physical letters, doing that,
Yeah.
And I've met your family. I don't know if you remember me coming when we went down to OU, Texas. Do you remember that trip?
Okay. Yeah.
Now you do.
Yeah.
No,
big group of us went to my house, I think.
Do you remember the tire blowing out on the freeway?
Oh man, yeah, I do.
Yeah, we were in the Jeep, and the tire blew out.
Yeah,
it was me and Reza, you, and we were going down to your parents' house, and I think we just stopped off because we were on the way before we went to the hotel or something like that. I can't remember, and I just remember meeting your mom. I met your brother. I think your dad was there. Yeah,
probably. I would think so. Yeah.
They were so inviting. They were just the kindest people. Your brother was super awesome. That's when I learned that you could sign and everything. That was cool, man. You kept that all to yourself. But anyways, man, that's what I remember. A little tangent there. Remember about your parents and stuff. So I can see why you wanted to get back home a lot too. That's a big thing. It'd be hard for me to be away, but you were away from your family a lot while you were at a big D1 coaching and everything like that. What was it that caused you to kind of start up Hughes Baseball Consulting and everything like that? And tell everybody it's great being at a D1 coaching, it's great being at a D1 playing and stuff like that, but talk about some of the hardships that you have to face and the sacrifices you have to make as well.
There's so many things that people just don't see on the back end of things, right? So literally, I mean, there's a couple reasons. There's one we've talked a little bit about. College baseball is changing. College athletics is changing. It's a whole different dynamic. So, in my opinion, like coaching, it's not as like it's what you got into it for, right? Like I got in it to help develop kids, help help them become men. But now there's not a lot of loyalty with the whole NIL stuff. So it's like you feel like if you coach them too hard, they may leave. If you coach them not enough, they may leave. Hey, and if you do everything right, they still might leave. So I had a hard time with that. Just the changes and adapting to it. Because I'm a little bit more old school. Like I enjoy the relationship. I enjoy helping kids. I enjoy helping see them, come in as a freshman, they have bright eyes. They got no idea what's going on. And then leaving, getting drafted as a junior, and it's all of a sudden they're like a whole different person, right? That's what I got into coaching for. And that's what I love. But on the flip side, so And we visited about this the other day, but this last summer, the recruiting is just it's so demanding, right? And which I actually really enjoyed the recruiting side of things, but looking at it, I think I was in my bed total of 5 nights this last summer. And
Right.
so I've got 3 daughters, right? That are 7, 5, and 3. And I got home one night, and my oldest daughter looks at me, and she didn't really even say hi. She basically just goes, "Hey, when are you leaving again?" And I couldn't literally give her an answer. I was like, "Well, probably tomorrow. I don't know how long I'm going for. I don't know when I'll be back." So like I was like, "Man, something's got to change here." And so for me, it was not an easy decision because baseball is something that I've loved, something
Right.
I've done my whole life. I've been on the college side of things, but ultimately, man, my family's going to come first. And so that's where I made the decision like, hey, I end up at the end of the summer, I went and visited with Tad and multiple times. And it's just like, hey, this is what I'm going to do. Like, this is best for me right now. Just on the mental side, just being there for my family, knowing that like, hey, I want to be a good father to my kids. So, and ultimately, like, I'll figure out what I'm gonna do next, and that's how honestly all this evolved for me, which is
Right.
really cool.
Yeah.
On the back end.
So I think it's a perfect fit for you. I mean, I definitely can see you in a manager position in for any team at a D1 or in professional baseball. You know the game very, very well. Your baseball IQ is tremendous. So I think this is an amazing fit. I really can't picture you doing anything else, um, because this encompasses so much of who you are, the wanting to give back to the game. You're doing it wholeheartedly right here. The molding and shaping of men. Well, now you get to do it even at a younger age to get them, to this position to make sure, they're happy with their decisions and going forward as they become men. So I think that's amazing. Um, and also, it takes a strong person to step away from something that really has been like your second home, if not maybe your first home at times, Jojo. But the family comes first. I commend you as a father, as a husband, as a man for being there for your family, because that's huge. I talked about not having a male figure around or my dad around a lot, and that definitely affected me. And that's another reason why I'm at home doing what I'm doing as well. And I just think that's tremendous, man. Congratulations to you on making that decision for yourself and everything. So,
Thank you.
uh, when you left OU, when you were done there,
Mhm.
when was the transition to tech? How quick of a transition did you have over there?
Yeah, so after my senior year, I signed as a free agent with the Royals, so the Kansas City Royals. I played with
I didn't know that.
Yeah, yeah. So
I'm sorry.
well, that's because it was so short. It was a brief stint. No, but I played there. I went there. I pitched with the Royals for in short ball, went back to spring training,
Yeah.
dealing with some shoulder stuff, and
Right.
ultimately made the decision. I was like, man, I'm going to go back. I'm going to finish up my degree. Then I ended up getting they ended up offering me, there's a program they had there that offered me, paid for my master's degree, paid me a little stipend plus benefits.
Oh,
So
that's awesome.
I worked in the athletic department, then they created a position there for me within the administration. So I did that for about a year and a half. And so summer of 2012, that's when Tadlock got the job at Tech. And I did the same thing I did when he said he got the job at OU. I said, "Hey, I'm coming with you. Like, just tell me where." And so he goes,
Love it.
"Well, hold on." He goes, "Let me see how it fits." And sure enough, he called me back and it worked out. So I initially went over there as director of operations, and majority of my time was spent as that. And then my last little over a year was assistant coach.
That's awesome. How was the operations part of it? I remember Ryan Gaines. That's what his position was, right? Yeah. Shout out Ryan Gaines.
Yeah, I still
Yeah, yeah.
talk to him.
How was that?
Man, it's a lot. It's a very, very rewarding job, but man, it keeps you on the edge of your toes. Like you're literally I mean, you gotta think 1, 2, if not 3 steps ahead. You're doing all the everything logistics day to day. You're doing budgeting, you're doing travel. meals. You're helping with every kid and every parent. So it was a fun role. I enjoyed it. It was something new every day. And I could always use baseball practice and the baseball games as my escape to like, this is what I'm doing it for because this is what I ultimately love.
Right.
But no, great experience. I mean, we had some good years. Went to Omaha, the College World Series 4 times.
Did see that. That's awesome. How is that actually getting to Omaha and being there? I know it's not as a player, but as a coach, how was that experience? Just seeing something that you and I watched that on TV. I know you grew up watching the College World Series, man. The Miami days, the Florida State days.
Yeah,
Remember hitting those home runs with those -5 bats? Yeah,
yeah.
yeah. How was that being there, JoJo, and seeing that?
Man, it is a special place. Like you talk about making memories, even as a coach, like you're just like, this is what it's about. And to see the look on the player's face, like when you step out and there's, I don't know, I'm thinking it was like 20 to 50,000 people like sitting there and you're like, this is what it should, this is the ultimate goal. This is cool.
Right. I remember seeing you guys there, and I remember you guys. I was so I was surprised at how much of a powerhouse you guys became during that period, and the return trips and everything like that. Watching you guys in the super regionals and stuff. I remember seeing OU go, which would have been my senior year, and seeing remember Brian Groth. I remember seeing him in the dugout, and I was just kind of I think there might have been somebody else there, but I saw Brian, and I got this overwhelming feeling of just kind of like living vicariously through him. And then the same thing when I saw you guys, I was just like, oh my god, that's so awesome just to be able to have that experience. Did it ever get dull for you going back multiple times?
No, it was something new every year. And the cool thing is like when you go back, you you just it's like it's the same thing with experience, right? You just know what you're getting into. So like we did better each and every year we went. Like the first year we went in 2014, it's funny. I was actually just talking with one of our former players. He was our catcher that year, Hunter Redmond. And so I saw him the other day, and we were talking about it. We're like, how did that team go to Omaha? Because we weren't very talented, but they just willed their way. And we got a little lucky along the way. But as we went and progressed, our teams got better and better. Players got better, and obviously success breeds that. But then also, like it just, you win a couple games, you win one the first time, the second time, then you win two the next time, and you just, it's the it's the greatest feeling ever. But then when you lose, it's like the worst feeling ever. You're like, man, we're so close.
I don't think there ever is in the moment there's never I'm grateful to be here. There's never that. Especially at the collegiate level. Um the intensity of the collegiate level just makes you feel different. Everybody knows what a college football stadium looks like when they're playing on Saturday and things like that. If you love baseball it's the similar environment, just less people, but it's a similar environment. The hair stands up on your arms. You've got your home fans there. You've got your all your friends there from the school, and it's about something. It's really about something. Um, can you talk about the intensity that a high school player getting ready to transition into college baseball should have, and what they should expect?
Yeah, absolutely. So as a high school player, the more pressure experiences, the more, I don't want to say like higher, like there's events out there, there's summer ball events that you can go to where um you're facing a lot of adversity. You're facing, you got scouts looking at you, you got all the parents, everything, it gets rowdy, right? But taking that step to the next level, especially big time college baseball, like Power 4 level, man, I think you've gotta focus more on the mental side than anything. You have to focus on your breath, you have to focus on because it can speed up on you so fast when the crowd gets going. You can't hear when you're talking to your teammate, just that's a position next to you, you can't hear yourself at times. And that's what makes it really fun. Just because it's like, this is intense. This is what it should be about. It's about having pride for your school, loving the game, trying to win, and doing it with your teammates next to you, right? And as opposed to pro ball, yes, you're doing that, but everybody's also trying to bring in a paycheck at the same time and keep their paycheck.
And everybody else is also trying to take your job from below you.
Right.
Yeah, the next
Yeah,
guy's
like
coming
they're
up.
trying. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, yeah, it's a great experience. I think you described it perfectly. What are some of the things that on the physical side, when we'll go to that intensity, what are some of the things that a player needs to start upping in their physical training, in their mental focus, transitioning from high school to college? And talk about sometimes overtraining. You know, there's a little bit of like too much of a good thing is a bad thing. So yeah, what type of intensity and training do they need to be focused on?
Literally, if you truly want to be a college athlete, I think you need to start training like a college athlete. And that's literally in the weight room.
Hmm.
That's not just in the weight room, that's having baseball specific lifts, position specific lifts, and individual specific lifts that's geared towards how your body moves and functions. But then you look at the way you eat. I mean, these are things that when I was growing up, I never thought about, right? It was just like go play baseball, but now it's so advanced, and there's so many at their fingertips for high school kids to develop, and start training like a college player. And then even academics, man, like just getting ahead and trying to stay ahead to where you can put yourself in a good position. But man, I think you hit on it. The most important thing, though, that I think is the most overlooked is like your mental strength, like is training the mind. Because this game is such a hard game, it will swallow you up and spit you out if you're not strong. And I mean, it's a game built on failure, right? And so that's why I think it teaches you a lot of life lessons. Like I said before, but at the same time, it's like, man, the more present and more you can live pitch to pitch and be mentally strong, and move on from things, the better off you're going to be, especially learning that as a high schooler, taking that jump to the next level, because you're going to deal as a high school player. A lot of times you don't deal with failure, especially that you deal with when you get to big time college baseball, or college baseball in general. Uh,
Big time.
yeah, you're going to deal with failure more than you've ever dealt with in your life.
Yeah, that is absolute truth right there. I can't stress that enough either. The mental side of things. When you're, for anybody that's going through the recruiting process, and this is just from my take, when you're getting ready to go to college, don't expect to fail, but just know that there's going to be some growth. And it may not be on the field. It may not be with baseball. It may be with a girlfriend you meet. It may be with your teammates. That was my biggest thing right there. And it just may be one of those things. So it's not necessarily about the game. Start getting your mental health right. And that's not a bad thing. It's just getting your mind right. Start focusing on the things that are important. When you go into your freshman year, just be one of the guys. Learn to be one of the guys. Learn to fit in, and just hang out. Be yourself. And that's the most important thing, because team chemistry is everything. I don't think that team, the first team that went to the College World Series, you said it, wouldn't have been there if they didn't will themselves. And that comes with chemistry, that's the biggest thing. I remember when we would get recruits, and we would, they're coming into OU, and we would get guys that were on their visits and stuff like that. And we would get like the potential first rounders and things like that as well.
Yeah.
And that was a flip side for me, because I'd be with them, taking them around, and I'd be like, God, don't come in, guys, on your recruiting trip and talk about yourself.
Amen.
Learn how the school works. That school's been there a lot longer than you have. And there's a lot more pride there at that school for what they do than anything you've ever done coming in. So, yeah, learn that part. That's the biggest piece of advice that I could give on that. Going back to your consulting and everything like that, what are some of the things that you offer the kids, and I don't want to call them clients, your kids that you work with and the families that you work with? Do you structure programs, plans? Is there, walk us through that and explain a little bit of that for people that are listening that may be interested.
Yeah, absolutely. So the way I've structured it, and so I've put together literally when I stepped away last summer, I put my head down in a computer and just spewed my knowledge. I've never been on a computer more in my life than I have this last fall. But so I put together what's called a mentorship program, right? And so it's programming that will walk kids through, hand in hand from start to finish throughout the whole recruiting process, things that they need to think about, on every different phase, any type of topic that they can think of. But the way I've structured it, so I do one-on-ones. So one-on-one consults is what I do, and I'll do that in two different ways. I'll do it one, and it's basically, hey, we'll get together one time, and then from there we'll go as a ad as needed basis. But what I do with that is I go, hey, I'm going to walk you through my programming, but I want you to bring any question that you have throughout, and let's talk, right? And I'm gonna tell you from my perspective as a coach's perspective, what I think and how it can help.
Right.
And then I do a monthly, basically, to where it's, hey, I'll do the one-on-one consult, and then I'll do a weekly check-in, and then we'll go monthly from an as needed basis. And then the cool, like my pride and joy, what I actually just launched a few weeks back, is called the Complete Recruit. So it's on hughesbaseballconsulting.com.
Okay. Awesome.
Yeah, it's an entire program where it's all online. And so what it is there's a 61 uh, section or chapter video course covering every single topic from pre-recruitment process to the recruitment to post. Walking them through. And then with that, there's workbooks that will make it more interactive and kind of give them some actionable items and checklist items, things that they should be doing.
Yeah.
And then there's a community discussion board. And so what's cool about that is in that discussion board, families can get on, share their experiences. They can ask questions. I'll get on, I'll update as any new topic comes on, or I'll just get on to talk like, hey, let's visit. But then they also get the one-on-one with me as well. So that's kind of the
Cool.
biggest package, but that's
Yeah.
that's man, that's my pride and joy right now. And I just launched it. And I'm trying to get the value out there to people. And that's what I enjoy. Like my passion is to help families, help and more so parents than kids. Like a lot of times the parents have all the questions and the kids, they just want to play baseball, right? And so
Absolutely.
I try to help bring them all together, all of us, as their family with me, and just, hey, let's make this happen for you. Let's make your dreams become a reality.
That is everything right there, Joe. That is I could not agree with you more. I currently I work as a freelance audio engineer, and I work for specifically for a studio as well. And that's the biggest thing for me is when the client that I'm working with is actually happy because something came together that was their idea, their dream. You know what I mean? And I can help assist in that. So I completely agree with you. That's the best thing, and that's the best food for your soul, anyways, man. That's great. We're coming down to the end. I know we've been on for a little bit, close to an hour now, and I want you to have time with your family and everything like that tonight. I appreciate you being on the Healthy Mental Pod. And before we wrap up, if you could sit with your 18-year-old self, brother, and give some advice from the Joe of today, what would you say, man?
Play golf.
Play golf.
I
All
know,
right.
I'm just kidding, but kind of serious. But
Yeah.
no, man. Looking back at it, I really wish that I knew. Like I put a bigger emphasis on um, exactly what I was just talking about, like training to be a college baseball player. I didn't get serious into lifting weights until freshman, maybe sophomore year. Like I wasn't strong enough, right? And like the commitment that it takes to play college baseball and college athletics, I just wish I knew that and knew what it took. Um, and because again, you only know what you know when you're growing up, and you kind of live life as it comes. But I knew I wanted to play the game at the highest level. I just wish I would have been a little bit more prepared doing it, rather than like feeling like I was just getting to college and then trying to keep up, right? I was getting ahead with it and taking it a little bit more serious. And again, like, and it's funny because like the first time I brought this to my dad, I showed him what I was doing. He goes, "Man, where was this when we were when we were?" Yeah, like
Right.
really why I'm doing this. So just the knowledge and the education of how to be a student athlete, how to, develop better, how, what it takes. So that's really like what I wish I would have going back and looking at it. I think there's probably a lot more, but that's what first comes to mind.
I think you mapped the journey pretty well. To be honest with you, man, I think you when I look back, I think more than you know, man. I think about you and several of the guys often. I remember a lot of things that you guys had tried to do for me that I didn't understand, and a lot of things that you guys have actually tried to say to me that I just didn't compute at the time.
Yeah.
So I think about you guys often, and I think about your journey, specifically your journey. And I can't say that you went about it in any wrong way. I think you did everything the right way. I watched you do everything the right way. You obviously went to Grayson, and you didn't go to OU. Tadlock wouldn't have brought you to OU for nothing. You busted your tail down there. You knew what hard work was. I saw that at OU. I saw that in those morning weight routines that we would have to do in the gym in the morning at like 4 or 5 a.m. that I would rarely show up to. But when I was there, you were 100% giving max effort to everything that you did on and off the field. Was amazing. You were a great teammate, a great friend, a great person to everybody that you came in contact with. And I can't say that that's something that everybody had at that age that we were in college, man. That was something that you had that stood out. Obviously, meeting your family, that's another thing. I could definitely see where that came from. You had an amazing family and everything like that. So, Joe, this has been an amazing episode, and it was great catching back up with you. Is there anything that you want to close with? Where can people find your Hughes Baseball Consulting? Where can they get in contact with you? Let everybody know.
Yeah, absolutely. So go to hughesbaseballconsulting.com. Everything is there that you need, from my programming to contact me. If you want to reach out to me on social media, I think I'm on every platform out there under Hughes Baseball Consulting. Or you can email me at hughesbaseballconsulting@gmail.com. But man, I think what you said, like, it's my favorite thing to do is to connect with teammates and former teammates. And it's so cool to see, you grow up and you doing this, because man, there's so much good that's going to come out of this. Just people sharing their stories and helping the mindset. And man, I always like to say this for anybody that's listening: just keep a growth mindset at whatever you're doing. Always, want to learn. Always have the passion to learn, and like I said, growth mindset.
That's it, brother. This has been a great hour and some change. I really appreciate it, everybody. Thank you for listening to another episode of the Healthy Mental Pod. I've been your host, Devin Shepard. This is Joseph Hughes. Check us out wherever you guys get your pods. Till next time, again, this is the Healthy Mental Pod. I'm Devin Shepard. Take care of yourself.